All right, today we're going to talk about a giant of Irish literature, Patrick Kavanagh. He was a poet who didn't just write about the Irish soil, he felt it. He lived it. His words truly captured the heart and soul of rural Ireland, making him, without a doubt, one of the most important voices of the 20th century.
I mean, even if you don't know the name Patrick Kavanagh, chances are you know these words. You've probably heard them sung, right? Maybe in a pub or by someone like Luke Kelly. On Raglan Road isn't just a poem. It's practically woven into the DNA of Irish culture. It's this beautiful, heartbreaking ballad of unrequited love that it still gets you every single time.
So, yeah, we all know the song, but who was the man behind it? I mean, what's his story? Well, beyond that one famous ballad, you'll find this incredibly complex, brilliant, and often pretty conflicted artist. His life was this mix of struggle, raw genius, and this deep, unshakable connection to the land. So let's get into it. Let's really get to know the man himself.
So, Section 1, The Ploughman's Pen, an artist in the making. And, his story doesn't start in some fancy Dublin literary circle. Nope. It begins in the fields of County Monaghan. This is where his voice was really forged, stuck right between the hard graft of farm work and this burning need to write. So, let's get the basics down. Patrick Kavanagh, born in 1904. And what you really need to know is that his work is all about this incredibly deep, personal connection to the land and the people who worked it. And this is key. He wasn't some tourist writing about country life. He was in it. He lived it. And because of that, he brought this raw, unfiltered honesty to everything he wrote. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict that drove his early work. Think of him as a man torn between two worlds. On one hand, you've got his rural life, the dignity of labor, that deep connection to the land. But on the other, you have this burning artistic aspiration, this desire to express himself, to find his own identity, which often clashed with tradition. He had one foot planted firmly in the mud and the other reaching for a pen. And you can feel that pull, that tension so powerfully in his book, The Green Fool. Okay, so looking at his early work, you can really see him finding his feet, finding that unique voice. In Ploughman and other poems, he just takes everyday farm life and elevates it, finding something really profound there. And then you get these amazing novels, The Green Fool and Terry Flynn, which are kind of based on his own life. They're all about a young artist trying to figure things out, wrestling with his community, his ambitions, and just trying to find his place in the world. Okay, Section 2, A Nation's Great Hunger, his masterpiece. Look, all that early work was fantastic. It laid the groundwork, but every great artist has that one moment, right? That one piece of work that just changes everything. For Kavanagh, this was it. This poem turned him from a great rural poet into an essential voice for the entire nation. So, in 1940, he comes out with this long poem called The Great Hunger, and it absolutely redefines his career. And look, this was not your typical romantic, isn't the countryside lovely kind of poem. No way. This was dark. It was deep. It was brutally honest. It basically took the old idealized image of rural Ireland and just shattered it. So what's it about? Well, here's the genius of it. The poem uses this idea of unrequited love as a huge metaphor. On one level, it's about this one farmer's lonely, frustrated life. But Kavanagh connects that personal, emotional hunger to the spiritual hunger of the entire country, which, in turn, echoes the very real physical starvation of the Great Famine. It's an incredibly powerful link between one man's soul and a nation's trauma. So why is the thing a masterpiece? Well, for one, it gave a voice to this silent suffering that was just simmering under the surface in rural Ireland. It completely dismantled that romantic postcard view of the country. He brilliantly weaves together personal desire with national history, using this really rich, earthy imagery. It's a gut punch of a poem in the best possible way. Next up, Walking by the Canal, a legacy in verse. So after the raw intensity of the Great Hunger, Kavanagh's life and his work took a turn. He ended up in Dublin, and his poetry started to change. It became quieter, more reflective, finding a new kind of peace in some surprisingly ordinary places. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? "Oh, commemorate me where there is water, canal water preferably, so stilly greeny at the heart of summer." It shows that whole shift in his thinking. He wasn't looking for grand epic themes anymore. He was finding beauty in the quiet, simple moments, like just sitting by a canal in Dublin. It became less about the struggle on the land and more about the simple, profound act of just being. When you look at his whole career laid out like this, you really see the incredible journey he went on.
I mean, he breaks out in 1938 with two major works. Then, boom, just 2 years later in 1940, he drops the masterpiece, The Great Hunger. A few years after that, in 46, he gives us the timeless On Raglan Road. It's just an amazing run, all leading up to his complete poems in 64, which really sealed his legacy.
And I think if you had to boil down what makes his work so powerful and timeless, it's this. He wrote in a way that people could actually understand. He used everyday language, the way people really talk, but he packed it with so much emotion. He wrote about his own little corner of the world, his small parish, but somehow he made it feel completely universal. He made his story our story. All right, let's wrap this up with his enduring legacy. So after all this, what's the big takeaway? Why do we still talk about him, sing his songs, and read his poems today?
Well, here's why he still matters so much. He gave a real, honest-to-God voice to the Irish rural experience, stripping away all the romance and myth. He showed all of us that you don't need to write about ancient kings or epic battles to create profound poetry. You can find it in a muddy field. You can find it on a quiet walk by the canal. He proved, maybe better than anyone, that the most ordinary parts of life are often the most extraordinary.
And that really leaves us with one final question, doesn't it? Kavanagh's real genius was his ability to find something universal in his own tiny parish, to see the epic in the everyday. And it makes you wonder, where can we find it in our own lives? Where's the epic in our everyday?